Hi and welcome. My name is Iqbal Akhtar for another episode of Interfaiths for our courses here at Florida International University. We're very honored to have Jon here, who is the director of Hillel here at Florida International University. So I'll let him introduce himself and talk to us a little bit about his background and a little bit about his life story.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Jon Warech. I'm the, like you said, executive director of the Hillel at FIU, which is the Jewish nonprofit organization here on campus at FIU. We're on 700, I think, plus campuses around the world. Each one operates independently. Some at private schools are embedded in the university, but here at public school, we are our own entity. But we're on campus. We pay rent for that, and so we are a proud tenant here at FIU. We work with students directly, building Jewish community, educating Jewish students, building future leaders of our Miami community. We also do a lot of work with non-Jewish students, interfaith type stuff, helping others understand Judaism and understand Israel, understand Jewish people's relationship to Israel, and fighting antisemitism, which is big now. So we do work with administration and faculty behind the scenes, just to make sure FIU is a safe place. We have a great relationship with the FIU PD also, which is a group we work with. They're fantastic. And so, yeah, certainly in today's day and age, we do a little bit of everything. Previous generations might think of Hillel as like, giving you matzo ball soup when you're sick or something like that. But, it's more dynamic these days. There's a lot more going on campus. And the Hillels are stepping up around the country to do that kind of work.
That's great. Talk to us a little bit about your where did you grow up and sort of your experience being Jewish in America.
So my path to this job is a little interesting.
Yeah.
I grew up here in Miami, in the North Miami Beach, Aventura area, which is a heavily Jewish populated area. Like beyond, like I think Aventura outside of Tel Aviv is the most dense population in the world of Jewish people. So when you grow up in that, you just assume that the rest of the world is even similar,
Right.
and it is not.
It's not.
Even down here on campus, it's a worlds away sometimes. So I grew up in that. I went to Jewish day school at Sinai Academy, and I spent time in the JCC at Michael and Russell JCC up there. So I was always involved in Jewish life, bar mitzvah confirmed, doing all that sort of stuff. In college, I was less involved in Jewish life. And so when this opportunity for this job came up, I really thought about myself in that position. And, if I had the right, the right leaders, the right guidance in that world, I probably would have been more involved. And so I actually switched careers for this. I was in journalism for a long time. A lot of entertainment journalism, magazine work. I co-authored some memoirs with some people. I moved to LA for a little while, did a little stint there, Hollywood style. But I was volunteering a bunch. I was really drawn to the work. And then this job opened up, and they needed a community person to be part of this, which is why I got the job without maybe the right resume for it. But because I was a community person, because I could connect with donors, and they saw my passion for working with students, I was able to come on board here, and we took a startup Hillel, and we've made it pretty big.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the work that you've done in transforming it has been quite remarkable, and the impact that you're having on with students. Just talking to the students that are part of the dialogue group and how much you guys mean to them. Talk to us about how your mission changed after October 7th.
So we've always done, which is interesting, is we've always done the anti-Semitism work. We've always done the Israel education work. I think after October 7th, more people were paying attention to it. And so it was good to be able to say, hey, we're already doing that here at FIU. Because like I said, a lot of Hillels aren't, because our students are community students. A lot of them are either from Miami and will likely be here after graduation, or they're international and they're from somewhere else in the world, and they're looking for this specific type of community, as opposed to a college campus in a college town where the people are there for the 4 years and then they're going to go back to wherever they came from. Exactly. They're creating more of a home away from home, and we're creating this is your home. So become a leader in your home and take care of your city and take care of your community. So with that in mind, we always knew the education part was important. We always knew certainly the outreach to other organizations and other student groups were important. And so we were kind of always doing that. Even so much as we partnered with Jubalong, an organization that puts up billboards, pink ones you might have seen, a little provocative at times, that fight anti-Semitism. And we partnered with them. It was before October 7th, well before, on a billboard that went in Miami, and it had our Hillel logo on it. And we were the first Hillel to do that. And, looking back, people were like, oh, is that really something you should do? But certainly post October 7th, everyone's like, oh, we were on top of things.
That one?
It was, I think it said something like, we are, however many years at the time, removed from the gas chambers. A billboard about anti-Semitism is not like too much or something like that. And then we had shirts, and we gave out shirts on campus, and that was a big campaign that went well. And we saw a lot of people come over to the table, Christian, Muslim students, come over and talk to us.
Right.
And again, all before October 7th. And we had real positive feedback. So where post October 7th, I think we had a lot of support that you didn't see on other campuses.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, the work that you guys do is very important. I'm trying to understand a little bit more about Hillel's relationship to the community here in Miami.
Right.
So how did the students get connected to the larger Jewish community in Miami?
Right. So there's obviously synagogues of all types of observance levels throughout Miami, and certainly parts of Aventura. I mean, it's everywhere you look. Right. And so we'll connect students there sometimes. Okay. We also do some programming with the JCCs. There's 3 major JCCs here in Miami, and then another one in Broward that's pretty big. And so we'll often partner with them on programs. The Jewish Museum, which is part of FIU, we'll do programming with them as well. And then there's a ton of organizations for every like micro group, you could say. There's a Jewish organization that does stuff for that, and there's also community service type programs, Israel related organizations, and we're constantly partnering with them, whether they come to campus or we go to them, to really connect the students to the community at large. And the main partner in all of this is the Greater Miami Jewish Federation. Right. And so one of our goals is to sort of be part of the feeder pattern of programming that exists. So you might be in Jewish preschool, and then maybe day school, and then there's high school programs and trips to Israel, things you can do. And then we want to be that for the college. And then when they graduate, there's professional programs through Federation and other organizations, and so on and so forth. And we really try to connect them as much as possible and then to individual leaders as well, people in the community who are doing big things, whether it's religiously or culturally, or just as people who give back in the Jewish community. We try to connect them to as many leaders as possible.
Okay. One of the things that's become very hot topic right now is the U.S. relationship with Israel.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what does Israel mean for the American Jewish community?
Certainly for the American Jewish community, a lot of us here are a couple of generations removed from the Holocaust, either directly or indirectly. So we've grown up with that education, and we are we see so often Holocaust survivors say, in testimonials, I was Polish, my father was Polish, my grandfather was Polish. We were so Polish before we were even Jewish, until the Holocaust started, and then our neighbors turned on us and said, no, you're Jewish, you're not Polish. And so that mentality of I'm a Jewish American, I'm not an American Jew, is something that sort of we grow up with. And because of that, Israel's existence is that safe haven, is the place we know where we can go. And even though from the outside world might feel dangerous, it actually to the Jewish people feels like the safest place on the planet. And, and it's often said that the Holocaust as in a result, Israel is in a result of the Holocaust, but the Holocaust would not have happened had Israel existed. And so that sort of a Jewish person's mentality over Israel is that because we have our ancestral homeland as a place to go for safety, history won't repeat itself. And so that's built into the mentality of it. Plus, just as, regardless of, how your religious observance, as we were talking about earlier, Israel offers a lot to the world, as a tourist even, right? So to go there and to get off the airplane and walk to Ben Gurion Airport, just the feeling you get alone as a Jewish person, I can't describe it. But when I was a kid, the first time on the March of the Living, after going to Poland and seeing the concentration camps, you literally kiss the ground when you get to Israel, like, because you're just so happy to be there. And so even now, everyone films. It's like the new version is everyone just films themselves walking down the ramp at Ben Gurion Airport, and it's like, here I am. This is my thing. And it's just a real emotional tie that's might be hard to explain, but it's everything to the Jewish people.
I think we've been doing some work on sort of interfaith dialogue, and I think that's something else that's kind of important. Talk to us a little bit about what is Hillel, or just generally kind of a Jewish perspective on sort of interfaith relations, interfaith dialogue.
I mean, look, it's very important. We are 2% of the population in America, 0.2 in the world. We are a minority in every sense of the word, yet so often we are spoken of in ways that doesn't make sense, almost as if we are a majority in some places. And so really to combat that, we have to be having conversations with everybody. And it's also to learn about others as well. Right. We don't thrive living in these bubbles. And, I mentioned Aventura before. Right. That is very much one of those. And so for young people, it's important to understand the world. But in turn, it's also important for us to tell the world about us. Otherwise, they're going to read something on the internet or even sadly in the regular media today that's going to be false, and they're going to believe it. And there's going to be a hatred that grows because some of the same dialogue, anti-Semitic dialogue, has existed in different forms, but it's basically the same for thousands of years. And I think what we see now, especially post October 7th, is it's never actually going to go away. But as Jews, we can have the conversations to fight it constantly, to not give up on it ever. And so I think that's very important. And we do it here on campus, for all those reasons, right? We want to be part of the larger fabric of FIU and what's going on and what's popular and what's great here. And we also want to be able to have those important conversations. And it's been tough post October 7th. A lot of the dialogue that has gone on for a long time in the community, it didn't seem like it worked. A lot of people, we felt, turned their backs on the Jewish people, even within this community here in Miami. And so it's been difficult. But I don't think it's something that anyone should ever give up on. In fact, I think it's even more important now, because what we've seen, I think, in the dialogue course we're doing, is that it's really outside voices that are influencing the conversation. Yeah. It's not necessarily the Jewish students and the Muslim students who can't figure it out, because they actually have more in common than they have different. It is a very loud outside voice who likely can't even find Israel on a map, who decides how, these world politics, and usually without any real solutions, just with anger. And so the dialogue really brings people together who actually have a vested interest in what's going on, which I think is important.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing I've also, we saw in this kind of these sessions that we've been having, which have gone really, really well, is just to see the shared lived experiences, right, of being minorities, of, trying to live your law and sort of the faith in the United States. I mean, a lot of similarities in terms of the way they move through the world. And so it's interesting that the way that the Israel-Palestine thing has been essentially weaponized by ideologues, right, to kind of create division between people and faith communities. And I think that that's something that, hopefully this is the start of kind of larger programming to be able to bring in bridges between these communities. And like I was saying earlier, my recent trip to Israel, I think that it was remarkable to see kind of how much integration and kind of the success that Israel has had in terms of drawing in. I think that was something else that was quite remarkable, is that it's a society that has been able to draw in vast amounts of like talent and resources to develop itself as a society. And that's like I think it's a positive example, I think, to countries in the larger Middle East whose governments don't work, whose economies are failing. And I think also the resolution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict eventually, I think, will also help to, reintegrate, I think, the Jewish people back in the Middle East, because Jews have been in the Middle East for more than 2,000 years. So there's no reason, at least in the among the Muslim world, and then even older, right? I mean, it goes back thousands of years. So the question is like, how do we create sort of new relationships that echo sort of some of the older partnerships that existed in the past? It's really important, even theologically and culturally, to have that interchange.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's more like 4,000 than 2,000 years.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So it's right. It's a very long time. Yeah. And then what we see, now is unfortunately Israel is really the only place where Jews live in any real amount of numbers anywhere in the Middle East. So people talk about what's going on in Israel, which they always say it's the size of New Jersey. Right. If you zoom out on the map a little bit, you can see it tells a much different story of Jewish life that used to thrive in Iraq and Iran and other places that doesn't exist anymore. Right. And so on one hand, Israel's this amazing place, but also, I think Jews thrive all over the world, and we shouldn't be forced to one space either. And so, that's the dynamic. And then, of course, when you go to Israel, you go to visit, you see it's a pretty remarkable place that is not at all what you read about in some cases. But then there's always the idea of well, Jews don't deserve to be there either, or they're doing these things for some like nefarious reason. Oh, so their technology is great, but like somehow that's bad for the world as opposed to good. And so that's always an uphill battle for the Jewish community is we do something that we're proud of, and people want to take it away from us in some way. And that's an everyday struggle with Israel. But certainly in America here too. People say, oh, you control Hollywood. Well, that's not true, as we see with a ton of protests and things that are happening. However, and Jewish impact on Hollywood is because at the time it was one of the few jobs that the Jewish community could have, because there was discrimination against Jewish people. And so it's a catch-22 of, okay, fine, this is the only thing we're letting you do because nobody cares about it in the moment. And then we turn it into something pretty decent, and it's like, oh, you have too much power. And there's a constant cycle of that in anything. Same thing in banking and money lending. And, those were jobs that Jews were allowed to do. And here we are.
One of the things that's important, I think, in Judaism is this idea of Tikkun Olam.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what that means?
Yes. It means to repair the world. It's, I think, a pillar of Judaism that, belongs in every Jewish life. And so, we're constantly doing that at Hillel is how can we, part of our outreach and part of our work in the communities, how can we better society? And I think we all kind of live with that in our minds as something that's important and something that we should be focused on. Now, the question is, how do you repair the world, right? And so, sometimes you have to say to yourself, well, I need to be healed myself before I can heal others, right? Or our community needs to be healed before it can help others. And too often, we are currently in the state of the world, or state certainly of America. I'll only speak for America, but it exists everywhere. Is we're so polarized as a society that where does the Jewish Tikkun Olam really take place? If you're now trying to support something because this is my, I'm supposed to support, I'm supposed to help, but then it is actually hurting other people, or in some case your own people in the process, it becomes more difficult. So that's a conversation a lot of people are having of, what does Tikkun Olam really look like in 2025, and how we best serve the community in that capacity. You would think it would be easy, right? You would think it'd be easy. Hey, we just want to help everybody we could help, but sometimes when you help one, you hurt another, and especially today, it's tough.
What's unique about Miami in terms of your experience? I mean, you lived in different places. What do you think is unique about the types of people and kind of the religious institutions here in Miami for the work that you do?
Yeah, I think because when you think about South Florida in general, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, the numbers are pretty large. So when you combine it together, and I do think I think we're connected in a way that you might not see in other places. Even New York and LA, there's a lot of separate things going on. Whereas I think in Miami, and maybe I'm just biased from it, but I certainly felt it when I lived in LA. Miami feels like one big family in a sense. And even when we argue among each other, based on religious observance, for example, or based on we have people from different parts of the world. For a lot of first-gen American Jews, especially here in Miami, and they might come with a different set of customs, and how they see Judaism. But yet, when push comes to shove, we do really feel connected in a way that I don't see anywhere outside of Israel. And I think that's special. And I think all the organizations act in that way. You see a lot more positive interaction between Reform and Orthodox Jews, between Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews, between the Israeli community is so embraced here, and we have a pretty large population. And the Greater Miami Jewish Federation does an amazing job of making all that happen, bringing people together. And our Hillel is just a small sort of subset of that, but we really are a microcosm of the whole city, because we get the students from all over Miami, different communities. In so many cases, we'll have a student who grew up in Aventura where everyone in their class is Jewish, and then their friend that they met here at FIU went to Coral Reef or a different high school down south that maybe they were the only Jewish person, or they maybe had one other Jewish friend, and now they're here at FIU together, and they're sharing their shared experiences. And Miami's really special. And just like for me personally, growing up here, I run into people everywhere I go. I run into someone I know. I can't go to dinner anywhere in this entire county without running into a Jewish person, probably, who I know. And I just don't think even New York and LA and Chicago and those major cities are built in the same way.
Okay. What about being here at FIU? What is your experience been like here at this university?
I mean, I think FIU is great. I think I've been here. I'm in year 8 now, and it just grows every year. I always talk about the apartment buildings on 8th Street. They didn't exist when I first started, and now this year there's like 9,000 students living on or around campus, including those buildings. And I mean, that's such a huge change. Yeah. Our Hillel space, which backs up to 8th Street in PG6, it used to be in like a bad location because the dorms are on the other side. And now with all those buildings, all of a sudden we're in this great location. And so like you see that growth, and you see what they're trying to do with some of the athletics and what they're trying to do with the Greek system and some of the other programs. And they're really successful. Like you can see the growth. The hard part is as someone who went to University of Florida, we're like 100 years behind, what these other state schools were doing. So on one hand, the growth is really exciting, and it's exciting. You watch it every year. But there's still a ways to go as far as student life goes, as far as, just the way it's a very big university too, the way people interconnect. Like even you and I, it should have been a lot easier for us to meet, right? But we didn't until recently, just because of how massive the university is. Exactly. So the communication gets tough. But it's a great place for Jewish students. More and more they are deciding to stay here. I think then because the price is right, you can work and intern in a great city like Miami while you're working, and then FIU keeps climbing the ranks educationally, right. And so it really is a win-win. And then we see that with the law school, medical school, all those things, right. As well. So it's really a great place, and University of Miami might have won a couple of football championships in the 80s or whatever, but it's a long time ago. I think it's our time here at FIU.
Okay, that's wonderful. I guess looking forward to the next couple of years, what are the major challenges and opportunities you see as director of Hillel?
Yeah. Well, certainly we've outgrown our space. I would love a larger space, create a larger home for Jewish life here on campus. And space is very limited, as it is everywhere. But certainly here, there's like new buildings going up every day that certainly take precedent over a Jewish student organization. And so the growth, it's a good challenge to have, but it is a challenge. And then also connecting students more and more to campus life in general, I think is very beneficial. Okay. If you start to see the football games packed and the basketball games packed, you'll see more action at Hillel because of that. Right. People need a reason to stay on campus. And we do well on social media, but there's still so many people who don't even know we exist, which you would think would be impossible because Hillel internationally has been around over 100 years. And so you would think parents, grandparents, somebody would say, "Oh, is there a Hillel?" And then they would go look it up. But so often, especially when you think of first generation American students, they're just not aware of what it is that they have here. And so that's always the challenge, is getting the word out. But again, the growth is exciting. I see us doing more and more for those who live on or around campus, and growing that way. And plus, and continue to connect people to the community as students graduate, and I see them involved in other things. That's always exciting for me. So the more of that we can do, the better.
Okay. And what's your final message to your pitch for Hillel?
Final pitch. I think it is for students to not just give it a chance, but to really try to understand the work we're doing. Because again, like they might see Shabbat dinner and say, well, I have Shabbat dinner with my family, so I don't need Hillel. But we offer so many programs, so many ways to grow, so many ways to connect to Israel, so many ways to connect with other students or academically or through their careers or connect to the community at large. There are so many things that we can do. And by the way, if we're not doing it and it's something you want to do, we can make that happen also. So we really are a space where anything can happen, and we want everybody to realize that. And also for the non-Jewish students that, come find us. Don't be afraid. If you have a student group out there and you want to do something with the Jewish students and we can work on something together, we love that. But again, it's hard to communicate a lot of times. They don't understand that we also have outside funding to bring to the table. So you need a nice meal at this event. You can count on Hillel to make it happen. And so there's ways to make it work, and we'd be thrilled to do any of it.
Well, I'm very grateful for your partnership and for really sort of working with us in terms of trying to develop this dialogue and connecting sort of Muslim and Jewish students and just generally the students, I think, at large, to sort of get to know more about the Jewish community and Jewish students. And I think that connection and sort of greater understanding will lead to a much better relationship among faith communities, and particularly for Jewish students. A very difficult time.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big takeaways from the course is this reminder that we're both about 2% of the population in America. And if you read the articles and you see what's on social media, you would think that it was much more. And so I think when we focus on that 4%, we can do a lot of great work.
No, it's crazy because like on the Jewish side, they're like, okay, well, the Jews control the world, and then Muslim side, Muslims want to impose Sharia law on everybody, and like they're about to take over America, and you're barely anything in the population. So it's unfortunately there's this this scaremongering that politicians use and sort of ideologues use, and just kind of also the media ecosystem has become so fragmented that it really takes a lot of effort and time to put positive images and narratives out there. And I feel like what we're doing in terms of literally just getting people together is one of the strongest ways to be able to combat that,
Yeah, I mean, right. Jewish people have never decided an election in the history of the United States. And so it doesn't matter to the masses how the Jews are voting. on anything,
Right.
like in any major city,
Right.
Nationally
Right.
especially, and yet you hear that conversation so often.
Right.
And yeah, that's the kind of stuff we have to change the narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and looking forward to our work together and our dinner later this evening.
All right, thank
All
you.
right. Thanks a lot, John.